What's up, everybody? Daniel's son here. Well, I'm not doing a fragrance review. I decided to do something a little bit different, something that I've been thinking about doing for quite a while, and I think now is the best time to do it. Um, Basically, what this is going to be is I'm going to sort of tell y'all what my fragrance journey has been like from what led me to start doing fragrance reviews and all the ups and downs of my fragrance review journey and all the good times and the bad times and all that stuff from my very first review up until now. So I guess the best way to get started is just to tell everybody how I got started doing this and what led me up to it. But the main purpose, the main purpose of me doing this is to maybe encourage other people to maybe think about doing this, about doing fragrance reviews, whether it be YouTube reviews or maybe starting a blog and doing fragrance reviews on a blog. I know a couple of fragrance review bloggers, and they do an excellent job. John Harper and Kenny Walker have done blogs. I think Kenny Walker does YouTube videos now, but both of them have done blogs, and they're very, very good at what they do. Some people do blogs better than others, and some people do fragrance reviews better than others. So it's just to encourage people to maybe think about doing this. I know there's a lot of fragrance reviewers and fragrance bloggers. There's more now than ever before, I believe, but I would like to see more. I would like to see more people start up doing fragrance reviews. The main reason for that is everybody that watches fragrance reviews and reads fragrance review blogs, they like to watch certain people. Some people like flashy and all the editing, and some people like to watch fragrance reviewers that's sort of laid back. And there's just so many different personalities out there, but the more we have, the more options that people have to watch people that they like. There's a lot of people that have their own studios set up, and they spend hours editing everything perfectly. There's people like me that do not edit whatsoever, that do it sort of raw. There's people that do reviews in their car. I know 3 people that do fragrance reviews inside their car. Some people do it in the bedroom. Some people do it outside when they're walking. There's just so many people doing it so many different ways. But I would like to see more people and more personalities out there. So it's just something to think about. But that's the main reason I'm doing this, is to encourage people to, do this. But what led me up to this, doing fragrance reviews, is I've always been a fragrance addict, a frag head, ever since I was a little kid. But in May 2018, I was at work, and there was this guy that come in my store where I was working at, and he walked by me, and I got a whiff of something that smelled really, really beautiful. I never smelled that on a person before. It smelled like beautiful, raw, fresh cut cedar. That's what I smelled. And I thought it smelled so amazing. So I asked him when he come out, I was like, dude, what have you got on? What kind of aftershave or cologne do you have on? Because it smells really good. And he was like, that's Molecule 01. And he told me it's from a house called Eccentric. I believe that's what he said. So I made him write it down. And he told me, he was like, that's pretty cool that you can smell it, because a lot of people, there's some people that can smell it and some people can't smell it. And I thought that was really interesting that he said that. But I couldn't wait to get home and and find out more about it. So I did. As soon as I got home, and I started Googling. I read everything about Molecule 01. And while I was doing that, other things started popping up, you know, other fragrances, and I would go look at them, and I would see another fragrance, so I would go and like research that. And within a couple of days, I found out that there was whole Facebook groups dedicated to like fragrances, and YouTube channels dedicated to like fragrances, and YouTube reviewers that do fragrance reviews. And I thought that just like blew my mind that people were actually have a YouTube channel reviewing colognes. I thought that was sort of weird, but here I am. But yeah, that led me to, as soon as I started researching Molecule 01, I started researching everything else, and before I knew it, I was like studying and learning about notes and accords and blending and perfumers and houses and the history of all of them. And I was studying everything that had anything to do with fragrances. I wanted to know everything I could about it. And one day I was watching some fragrance reviewers, and I was like, I wonder if I could do that. So I thought about it for a couple of days, and then I started like trying to figure out how to make a fragrance review. And I sort of finally figured out how to do it, but I started getting really terrified. I started freaking out because I have social anxiety, and I'm an introvert, and that was very difficult for me to even think about doing, because I knew when I did this, my face would be out there and everybody would be watching me, and that just freaked me out to death. I was terrified, but I kept doing it. I kept like trying to figure out how to do reviews, and I did a couple and they sucked, and I deleted them. And finally, after a couple of days, I made my first review, and I was so terrified to like put it on YouTube. I was terrified, but I did it anyway. And I'm going to put a link to my first two reviews in the description so y'all can check those out. One was actually how to fix a Mugler sprayer, but I'll put both of those. I'll put my very first fragrance review in the description, the link to it. It's my first fragrance review was Vetiver by Carven, and I was so terrified to do that review. I had the camera facing away from me. I had I think I had the fragrance, the Vetiver by Carven on the floor, and I held the camera away from me so nobody could see my face, and I did the review that way. I did a couple of reviews that way, but I think my first 40 reviews were absolutely horrible, but I kept doing them. I wanted to quit many times. I was like, I really suck at this. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to make any more. But a week later, I would like make another one, and eventually over time it got easier and easier. Every couple of reviews it would get easier, and I would get more comfortable, and it just become more natural for me to do it. I figured everything out. I started smiling because I wasn't so terrified after a while. I started having a good time. People actually started enjoying my reviews because they could see I wasn't like tense, and I felt better about doing it. And that shows on my reviews that, you know, I'm not nervous and I'm not scared, and that makes people more comfortable. But I think one of the most positive things that came out of this whole thing, out of my fragrance reviewing experience, was overcoming my fear of just putting my face out there, you know, the social anxiety and stuff. it took a long time, but I eventually overcame that. And it's just so natural to me now to do this. Sometimes I don't even take notes or anything. I think I'll do a fragrance review and just put my cell phone up and just start talking. But I encourage everybody, I really do, to maybe even just think about it. Another positive thing that came out of this, before I started doing it, I did have a voice to a certain extent about, put my opinion about fragrances, through comments on Facebook groups and stuff. But this gives me so much more of a voice to express my opinion about fragrances. I'm reaching more people doing this fragrance reviews, and you can too. You can have a bigger voice on, putting your opinion out there and your experience with fragrances if you start doing this. But I guarantee you, you might have the same experience as me, being nervous and scared when you first attempt to do this. But I promise you, over time, it will get so much easier and you'll start having so much fun doing this. Trust me, I know I was terrified, but it's a good feeling to be able to do this now. So I hope people start thinking about this, because we need more fragrance reviewers out there. And it's just something to think about. And if you do decide to do this, please remember to ask for suggestions or tips, or if you have any questions or need any help, let me know. And if you don't want to ask me about something, there's tons of other fragrance reviewers that's been doing this a lot longer than me. So ask one of them. I know almost all the fragrance reviewers, and I know them. I know that they would be more than happy to help anybody that's getting started doing this, to answer questions or give suggestions or anything like that. So don't hesitate to ask for help or advice or suggestions or anything like that. But it's just something to think about. And I want to do sort of a tag, to make this sort of a tag. If there's any fragrance reviewers out there, bloggers or YouTubers, I would like to see you do this, to sort of talk about your experience with your journey, your fragrance reviewing journey. I want to make this a tag to all the fragrance reviewers out there, to do this also, to talk about your fragrance journey. I would like to hear that. I think it's interesting. And thank you to all my supporters out there. Another thing, to all my supporters out there, and to all the people who have sent me samples and fragrance bottles and decants and stuff, I want to say how grateful I am and thankful I am to y'all for doing that. Because if it wasn't for all these people sending me samples and decants and stuff, I wouldn't be able to make a lot of the reviews that I did if it wasn't for y'all sending me stuff and helping me out, because there was no way I would be able to afford to keep buying full bottles of stuff just to do reviews. So everybody who sent me stuff and supported me, a big shout out to y'all, and thank you, and I love you guys. And that's it. So if anybody has any questions, let me know, and check my 2 very first reviews out. I'll put the link to those in the description. But if you have any questions or need to know anything or whatever, just let me know. I'll put my personal Facebook page in the description also. So if you want to get in contact with me through Messenger or something, or if you just have a question, you can leave it down in the comment section. So anyway, I love you guys, and I hope everybody's well, and I will talk to you later. All right, love you guys. Bye.